Oh, hey, it's Emily, and today I'm going to be talking about 35 books that I would love to read before I turn 35. So, if all goes according to plan, I am posting this on my 33rd birthday, and I thought it would be a fun time to post it to be able to check in a year, see how things are going, check in 2 years, and see how much of this list I have read. One thing to note is that this is actually far more than 35 books. I've included an entire lengthy series as one entry on this list, but I'm a series girl and I wasn't not gonna put series on this list, and so I just have accepted that there are actually way more than 35 things, but that also means that I am not at all gonna be sad or feel like a failure if I don't read anything on this list, let alone complete the entire list. This is just a fun thing, a fun challenge that, will help kind of prioritize some things for me, but also just be a fun thing to check back in on. So I'm not gonna be upset if I don't read these, but my friend Kim from Expedition Through Pages actually did this relatively recently. I'll link the video down below. Please go check it out. Kim is delightful. And it just reminded me that I had been meaning to do a video like this, and just rekindled my interest and gave me that little kick in the butt to actually put together a list and film it. This is certainly not exhaustive. There are many, many things I want to read over the next 2 years, but I thought I would focus on 4 different things in particular, one of those being long series. And I picked long series because, one, there are just way too many duologies, trilogies, shorter series that I want to read that I have no idea how I would prioritize it. Just, there are too many of them. And so I wanted to focus on larger ones just because there were fewer of them that I have my radar on. And I thought it would be fun to give a sense of some of the longer series that I'm interested in and how I'm prioritizing them, or which ones I want to prioritize coming up, because they are a much higher investment in terms of time. And so I'm going to be able to get through fewer of them, and I probably won't be able to get to all of the books in all of these series even in the next 2 years, but it will at least give some sense of the major worlds where there are a bunch of books in them that I would like to prioritize. So, just something fun to check back in on. And also I wanted to put this list together to give some indication of other types of reading I would like to do in the next couple of years, or things I would like to prioritize in the next couple of years other than series or things that I have been focusing on for the past few years. Anyway, with that said, there are 4 overarching categories for what I'm going to be talking about. I've got the list on my phone here. Large series is one category, classics, some manga and graphic novels, and then some nonfiction. So I'll just jump right in. I'm barely going to talk about the synopsis of these because I have a lot to get through. So one thing I want to prioritize is the Expanse series, and apologies to editing Emily, I didn't bring down physical copies of the things on this list that I do happen to have physical copies of, so I'm just going to edit in all the pictures. So the Expanse series, I believe, is a sci-fi opera series, follows a bunch of politics and shenanigans between different worlds, and was just something I've heard is fast-paced, fun, so definitely something I would love to prioritize. Red Rising is another world that I would like to prioritize. I think the 6th one is coming out this year, if I'm recalling correctly, and this one follows essentially a revolt from a lower class on this world. And another series and world that I would like to continue on with is the Dune world, where we're following the politics of the Atreides family and other noble families in this world and across different worlds as they take over control of Dune and the spice production that's on that world. I also would like to prioritize the Stormlight Archives and the Cosmere in general, but I'm specifically putting Stormlight Archives on here. The first arc should be done later this year, I believe, and so I want to include at the very least the first arc of the Stormlight Archives, and it's a epic political fantasy that I believe also involves a war. It's Brandon Sanderson. I am pretty sure I'm gonna love this series. And I also want to continue with The Realm of the Elderling World by Robin Hobb. I've read the first 2 series, so I have 3 more series to get to, and I need to continue on with that. I also want to get into the First Law world, and I have the first trilogy with me in physical copy, and I believe there's another trilogy as well, and is it 3 or 4 standalone novels as well that are set in this world. And it's supposed to be classic, amazing, grimdark, character focused, just fantasy amazingness. So I'm excited to dig into that world. I also want to put Keeper of the Lost Cities. I wanted at least one fun middle grade fantasy series on this one, and this one follows a girl who realizes that she is part elf, I believe, and gets involved in elf politics. Not really sure much more than that, but I feel like it'll be super fun, a super fun middle grade fantasy adventure, which generally is what I gravitate towards for middle grade. I also wanted to put the Disney Twisted Tale series on this one. I have actually only read 1 so far, but I really enjoyed it. And that was the Beauty and the Beast one by Liz Braswell. But there are so many in this series and several authors, 3 or 4 authors, have contributed to this series to give one dark twist on a Disney classic and go in that direction and give that twist, give that change to the story and see what would happen. It's fun. It's fun. And so I would love to do a whole series of videos where I read a chunk of those and rewatch the movies and just bask in Disney wonderfulness. So wanted to mention that. I also want to continue on with the Shadowhunter world. I've read the first 4 books in the first Shadowhunter series, and I had a fun time with them. I would like to keep going with that series and keep going with more in the Shadowhunter world. And this follows a group of people who are Shadowhunters, and there are a bunch of downworld creatures and werewolves and vampires, and it's fun. It's fun. It's very angsty, but fun. There's also the Wayward Children series, and this one is a series of novellas that follow people who go into or have come out of different portal worlds. And there's a school for wayward children who are having trouble adapting back to life after they've been in this portal world, and it just seems fun. I love portal fantasies, and so I feel like this will be a really fun series to get into. So those are some of the longer series that are pretty high on my priority list for the next couple of years. The classics include The Picture of Dorian Gray, and I also would love to read The Count of Monte Cristo, and I think that one is just a fun adventure revenge story. Of course, Sherlock Holmes. I've enjoyed the Sherlock Holmes that I've read. I haven't read too many. I think I've only read a couple of the Sherlock stories, but I would love to just dive back into Sherlock Holmes. It's so much fun. I really enjoy Sherlock Holmes, and so I would love to get back into those. Alice in Wonderland, I would also really love to read. I would love to catch up with more Jane Austen's novels. I did read Pride and Prejudice, but I think I need to reread it, try to re-experience it, and continue on with some of her other novels as well. I would love to read Wuthering Heights, and I would also love to read Dracula, and Middlemarch are some of the classics that I've identified. I don't actually remember what all of these are about specifically, but I've had these in mind as ones that kind of drew me in. I don't necessarily feel like I need to read classics just because they're classics. Life is too short. Read what you want to read. But these are some classics that have stood out to me or stuck in my mind as ones that I felt like I would really enjoy. So another thing that I would love to do, I feel like quite a few of the booktubers that I follow have had a manga just renaissance, or they've awakened their love for manga, and it's just really inspired me. And so I feel like I want to try some more manga. I did read some as a kid and really enjoyed what I read as a kid, but never kept up with too many series and haven't read a manga in quite a long time. But I would love to go back and try some more manga and try some of these manga series. That includes One Piece. I would love to get into Vinland Saga. I would love to get into Full Metal Alchemist, which I believe follows two characters. One has had his soul put into a body of kind of armor, a suit of armor, if I'm recalling correctly, and one has lost some limbs, and they're trying to... Are they trying to protect their mother? I'm blanking on what some of these are about. Spy Family involves people who are brought together as kind of a fake family for reasons, and they all have secrets, and shenanigans ensues from there. I also want to finish the graphic novel series Saga. I have started and read the first two, but I would love to reread those and just go through the whole series. And this one follows from the perspective of the child of two people who are from warring, one's a planet, one's a moon, and they're kind of proxy wars between these groups that are happening all over the galaxy, and two people from opposite sides have fallen in love, had a child, and the child is recounting their story. And I really enjoyed the two that I've read, and I want to go back. I also feel like I'll really enjoy Everyone's an Alien When You're an Alien too, and I just feel like I'll really connect with this one. I would love to read it, and I think it just is an alien's perspective of belonging and feeling like you belong. So I feel like it'll be really sweet, heartwarming, and something that'll just really be medicine for my soul whenever I need it. So would love to read that. So those are some graphic novel, manga series that I would love to get into. Again, I don't know or recall at the moment what some of these are about, but I know quite a few booktubers are following some of these series, and I would love to be able to go back and watch some of their spoiler content. And from the non-spoiler reviews that I've heard of these series, they really sound like they'll be up my alley and just sound like they're a lot of fun. So we'll see how long it'll take for me to actually get to these, but I really would love to. Next, for some nonfiction, one thing I would love to get to is the Carbon Ideologies. So these are, I think there are 2 out currently, and these are pretty lengthy nonfictions chronicling various aspects of climate change, energy, that kind of thing. I also would love to read Energy and Civilization, which talks about the history of energy and how energy has been a part of human life throughout history. I also would love to read The Invention of the White Race, as well as Stamped from the Beginning, and historical perspectives, analysis about racism through to now as well. And I also would love to read Hood Feminism and some more nonfiction about feminism in general. Some of these nonfictions are really just kind of representative of the types of nonfiction I really want to get more into in the next couple of years, and these are just a couple of examples from various categories or various areas of interest that I would like to get to. So it's to highlight some of those. So Hood Feminism highlights an interest to read more about feminism as well, and intersectional feminism. I also would love to read Invisible Women, that talks about, I think it's talking a lot about data and research. And so one of the things that it talks about, from my understanding, for example, is how recently it was that women were actually required to be included in medical trials to see how medicines or various procedures or something could differentially affect men and women, which just seems absurd, and just talks about various aspects of life where women have been excluded or not part of the data that are just kind of mind-boggling like that. Just something that I think would be really interesting. I also would love to read Capital in the 21st Century. I would love to read The Minimalist Way and learn more about minimalism. I would love to read Know My Name, and there are quite a few memoirs I would love to get into, but this is a high priority one that I'm interested in. And as I said, indicative of a broader interest in reading some memoirs, but this one follows Chanel Miller's story, who was assaulted by Brock Turner, who essentially got a slap on the wrist for assaulting her, and just everything that she had to deal with, not just from the assault, but also from the trial process and so many things that, anyway, I would love to read that one. I've heard it's absolutely incredible. I would also love to read The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. Definitely interested in that era of history, and this one's, I think, a classic chronicling of that time. I also would love to read Dear Reader, which I believe is this author talking about how reading and some of the books that they've read have been a part of their life, changed them and changed other people. And I think it's just a conversation about literature, and it's kind of a love letter to literature and how it can change us. Anyway, those are 35 books or series or things that kind of give an indication of what I'm interested in reading over the next couple of years, among many other things. But I thought it would be fun to have some sort of list to check back in on in a year, 2 years, and just see what happens and see how many of these I can read. So thank you so much for joining me for this video. Let me know if you've read any of these and what your thoughts were, or if there's some high priority things that you would love to read by a certain time. I would also love to know that. Subscribe for more bookish content. I'll leave everything down below, including the video from Kim that I mentioned, my Instagram, more information about how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.